Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Chicago Smart Podcast for your Monday, May 18th, 2026. I was hoping to do a one weekly. Unfortunately, last week was just way too hard to do that. So, unfortunately, I couldn't. I wanted to do something before the Atlanta series or right after the Atlanta series, right before that White Sox series that we just had this weekend, but it just did not work out. I'm glad. I'm glad. I think it kind of gives me a little bit more to talk about and to work on because or more material to work with, I should say, just because the last two series were a lot of similarities there. Not only that the Cubs lost the series 2 out of 3, but a lot of what's going on with the bats. A lot of just missed opportunities, a lot of men left on base in both series. But um, overall, I thought they would just maybe with that last game in Atlanta, I thought they would maybe have some more momentum coming in. That looked really good on Friday, but ultimately Saturday, that was a toss up. That was going to be really hard to get to a good pitcher like Davis Martin. Um, but that's why I was hoping we would take Friday, which we did, thankfully. And then, Saturday was going to be the toss up. And then I thought for sure yesterday we'd score more runs, especially against Fetty. Fetty's not been that good. Fetty proved in that first couple innings he just was not that good. But the the White Sox they're just good. They're just a good, scrappy team. I'd already seen this since last year. So they had a first series, I remember last year in May, and there was a lot of wind, which is funny. There was a lot of wind yesterday at the rate at Sox Field, kind of similar to what happened when we played that first series here in at Wrigley last May. And some of those balls got dropped, and the just Sox just did not look good in that first series. But that second series in July, I remember it very vividly. The Sox just look like a different team. And from that second half, or at least that second time I seen them play the Cubs, I said, there's something here. There's something differently here. Like obviously, this is before they had Murakami and all these other guys. I know Chase Maydroff was always there. Vargas has been there. Carlson Montgomery's starting to come into his own. So a lot of the stuff, is coming up now, but that doesn't mean they're a bad team. And again, think people just in general, I don't know, just Cubs fans, but just even nationally, right? They play in a bad division. They can't help that. They're in the division that they're in. The American League Central has never really been that great, to be honest with you. Um, and again, the National League Central, right, as compared to the two divisions, um, it's like it's like night and day, right? Apples to oranges. But who knows, right? Are the Cardinals going to stick around? The Brewers are for sure going to stick around. How about the Reds? How about the Pirates, right? Like right now, it looks like it's Cubs Brewers. But again, at St. Louis hasn't gone anywhere. Again, the White Sox can't do anything. They can only play who's in their division when they play those division games. It is what it is. I'm certainly not going to sit here and make excuses, right? As a Cubs fan, they just didn't get the job done. And either of the two series, they just did not get the job done. Period. Too many men left on base yesterday. Too many missed opportunities, right? And I feel like sometimes, and again, this is just me watching, and I'll definitely admit that this Sox series, I really got to know them a little bit better, right? I can see highlights. I can even go and do my research. So I don't want to come here and say, oh my goodness, I know that Sox roster up and down. And again, even our roster too, like there's pictures that we've got that unfortunately because of the injuries we've had, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I've never seen him play for anybody else, right? But in the case of the White Sox, they're a good team. They got a good manager. I've said it before. They're a good, young, scrappy team. And what are they going to do? They got to play who they're going to play in front of them. If the Cubs are coming in cold, the bats are coming in cold, what are they gonna do? They can't just lay down and be like, oh, you guys got all these injuries. You guys are the big bad mighty Cubs. Let's just lay down because we're supposed to be little brother. That doesn't work like that. I've never operated in that school of thinking, right? But with the Cubs, it's just I've noticed this, is that um when they go into these cold streaks, I've noticed something that just is kind of I wouldn't say I guess it's disturbing, right? And it's sort of a disturbing trend in a way. Is that they don't change their approach. And I'm not saying that these guys automatically go into a slump and for whatever, right? 0 for 20, right? 0 for 25, 0 for 30. You're hitting the ball, you're barreling up a ball, but there's always seems to be an infielder and even an outfielder out there. Balls are not falling where they're supposed to fall. whatever, your timing is off, whatever it may be. But I noticed that nobody adjusts their their approach, right? I get it, right? This swing, this approach has gotten you to the big leagues, has kept you in the big leagues long if you've been there for a bit. But sometimes you kind of just need to change the game plan, right? And where does that start? Does that start with the man in the dugout, Craig Counsell, or does that start with the players that are actually taking the at bats, right? Like I'm of the school of I get it, the manager can have a plan, but you can go up there and be like, hey, look, in this situation, right? Situational hitting, which I've always talked about and which drives me crazy with this team is situational hitting is not there. If you know that you're not going to barrel up Davis Martin a lot, obviously you have to know that. If you don't know that, then you haven't done your research, one, as a ball player, and two, your team hasn't done good scouting, right? To know that this man slider's unhittable, right? It's not a secret. It's not like he's keeping the secret. It's not a secret. It's very well known. This guy has an unhittable slider. So how do you adjust to that, right? Can you adjust that, or do you just hope, hey, my approach is going to help me get through a Davis Martin, right? Do you concede that game, right? Because it almost felt like, I wouldn't say that Console conceded it, but he did let Tyone wear it a little bit because his bullpen's kind of short and he still has to get through one more game. There is no off day right after yesterday's game. They go right into the Brewers. They could be playing the Rockies. They could be playing, pick the worst team in Major League Baseball right now, as far as record and just it looks bad. They could be playing the Rockies, and I don't mean no disparagement to the Rockies. Just that's the first team that comes to mind. They could be playing a team that's just total hot garbage trash, and you still have to rest your bullpen because you need those bullpens arms fresh, right? And now tonight they got the Brewers. Were again another scrappy team, and this is no disrespect to the Brewers, right? That they have a bunch of guys that just they plug in and they're good. And I don't mean to disparage again Christian Yelich. As much as I don't like Christian Yelich, he's there, right? I think he's back. If I'm not mistaken, I think he is back, right? You got a lot of these guys that are just they're young, scrappy players, and it's it's that rivalry again with the Brewers and the Cubs, right? Because they met in the NLDS last year, and the rivalry's always there because the manager used to manage for the Brewers and all that. There's there's definitely a rivalry there. But besides the point, right? Council had to let Tyone wear it a little bit on Saturday. And even though it was 8-3 and it seemed like it was a closer game, 5 runs are 5 runs, regardless, right? Because it was 10-5 on Friday, right? So that's 5 runs. And that game didn't look close whatsoever, right? But again, that game on Saturday wasn't close whatsoever either. 8-3, that's a 5 run differential, but those 3 runs, I think, came off the bullpen. And I think if one of them came off of Davis Martin, I don't know. And again, I don't remember. Truth be told, I did pay attention a lot to the game, but I was cooking. I was outside doing some grilling. It was my birthday on Friday. I invited some people over on Saturday, including one of my brothers from my men's group. So shout out to Jonathan for coming out with his son Jeremiah to celebrate. And it wasn't a big party. It was just a really small family get together. It was kind of just really kind of last note or last minute. So he did get a last minute notice or so, but I appreciate it coming through. And we watched the game together, and we just sat here and we broke it down and we analyzed that Tyone's just giving up way too many long balls. He needs to try to keep the ball in, he needs to basically become almost a ground ball pitcher. I know that's not his style, but he needs to try to keep that ball out of the air as much as he possibly can. And the White Sox took advantage of that. Like I can't sit here and tell you, oh, the White Sox cheated or the White Sox did this or blah blah blah. They just simply were the better team. Simple as that. Let's put the rivalry aside, the trolling, which I want to make that a whole separate thing because there's so much to come out of this series as far as the trolling and the back and forth and the rivalry. I'm simply talking about the games themselves, right? This is something that the Cubs have to look at, that they're going to face teams with better lineups, by the way, than the White Sox. And again, this sounds like this is like a backhanded compliment. I'm simply telling you that they're going to face a lot of teams that have better lineups or no rest in that lineup. And again, the White Sox do seem like they have that there, right? Vargas is definitely coming into his own. Murakami, regardless of his average, right, is hitting bombs and tanks, and he's a home run. Colson Montgomery, I mean, again, all that. I want to cover all that. I want to make sure that I cover this respectfully and as thorough as I possibly can from my vantage point of watching all 3 games, right? It just it's something that the Cubs go through every year, right? And I'm sure other teams go through it too. The Dodgers we're suffering through a slump as well. They're having some more injuries on the pitching staff, but it's what I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to continue stating this point. So if it feels like I'm restating these points, it's because I want to just point it out because I feel like it's not being pointed out. Nobody's gonna feel sorry for the Dodgers, the Cubs, or any team that are decimated by injuries. Unfortunately, as much as it sucks, that is just part of the 162 game grind, right? You gotta just try to stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and try to somehow make it to October and make a deep run in October. Nobody's going to lay down for them. Nobody's going to feel sorry for them. That's just, it is what it is, right? There's no, oh, it's because they were missing these guys. Yes, obviously. They're missing Horton, Steele, Boyd. Again, I'm sure that, let's say they ought to have been healthy. Of course they'd have pitched in this year. Would it have made a difference? I don't know, right? I can't say that with absolute certainty, right? I don't know that. I can't predict the future, right? I couldn't tell you or even predict something that hasn't happened or didn't happen, right? I imagine maybe some of those games would have been different. Colin Ray may not have been pitching yesterday's game. And again, no offense to Colin Ray. I think he did okay, right? He did an okay job for what he was there for, right? But again, he gave us some contact, and the Sox took advantage of that. And that's okay. They hung around because the Cubs, in a lot of respects, let them hang around, right? By not cashing in those runs, right? Again, at the end of the day, and I know that's so simple and it makes me laugh, is whoever has more runs at the end wins the game. There's no ties in baseball, right? Like there is in football. Or there's not going to be a shootout when there's a tie at the end of regulation like in hockey. So I don't want to sit here and make a bunch of excuses just other than to say the Cubs have to be better. Period. This got nothing to do with it's the White Sox and all that. Yes, for the rivalry, for bragging rights, absolutely. But again, same thing. They got the Brewers tonight. Is that not a rivalry? Is that not for bragging rights to say, hey, they want to unseat the Brewers from the division? And again, it's May. I get it. There's still a long season to go. But again, we're not going backwards. We're going forward, and they got to start stacking victories. That's just a simple fact. I'm not going to sit here and be a complete Cubs homer and just tell you, oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to a respect, yes, because it's still only May 18th, right? But you guys got to come out of the slump. You guys got to figure it out, right? I get it. You got to have a bunch of speedsters to maybe play small ball, but maybe I don't know. Think of a different strategy. Like you guys have tablets. You guys have each other to talk to, right? Hey, I'm seeing that this guy's changeup or this guy's slider or whatever. How do we adjust, right? You have a lot of professional hitters in that dugout, right? I'm not saying Matt Shaw, but maybe Matt Shaw sees something, right? Or maybe, I don't know, Ballesteros sees something, right? Ballesteros sees something. We got Bregman, and Bregman seems to be a hitting guru a little bit and obsesses with hitting. And yeah, I know his average and it's not exactly looking like somebody who would qualify for that. But that, and again, I don't know, right? I'm not in that dugout to say, what are they talking about? Are they breaking things down? After the game, are they talking for a little bit? Is it something that they're sitting on? Is there something they can go back and talk about, right? In a hitters meeting or just amongst themselves, right? Amongst themselves. These are the things I'm talking about. These are the things that are going to matter in an entire season. Because again, if you ask the national public or the general public, this is the motto of the Dodgers. This is how they operate. Is let's keep a distance between all the teams in the National League West, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, um, the Rockies. Which again, the Rockies, it's unfortunately that just organization is just it's got a lot of retooling to do before it even becomes a respectable organization again. But again, um, the Padres and the Diamondbacks. How do we keep them at bay? You know, until we get to October and then we turn it on, right? Like they say, oh, they're like the Golden State Warriors. They're almost like punt, or at least when the Golden State Warriors were a little bit better. They sort of punt the season or kind of just go through the motions of the season. And when that playoff, when those brightest lights are on in October, that's when they turn it on. I don't know if that model really works for everybody. Or even works for the Cubs, right? It may work for the Dodgers. And again, we don't know, right? It's such a long season, but I do like what the analysts do a little bit too, right? A week from now will be Memorial Day, so you kind of have those checkpoints, right? those season checkpoints you have, opening day and then opening day to Memorial Day. Where are you at between that time frame, right? Then you go from Memorial Day to the All-Star break. That's when, if your team is not, or somebody from your team is not representing you guys. I think the Cubs should have some representatives this year. So should the White Sox. Honestly, right now, if things stay the way they are, Montgomery, for sure, Davis Martin, Murakami, right? I don't even know if Murakami's going to participate in the home run derby, which is what me and my friend Jonathan were talking about on Saturday, was if they would let him participate in the home run derby. Again, that's an organizational decision, or does he want to do it as well? But again, right? Then we take those, right? Going back to the point I was saying, then we take that time between Memorial Day and the All-Star break. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm going to look this up right now, I don't know if the trade deadline is July 31st or is it August again. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Trade deadline. I'm looking this up live, folks. I'd love to do this live with you guys here. The trade deadline this year will be August 3rd, right? So then at that point, the All-Star break's usually about, I would say about July 14th or so, something like that. That second week of July, is where that All-Star break is at. So you're looking at, let's see, let me look at my calendar here. If we're looking at July, let's see, no, it's that second, so it's July 14th. So if I'm not mistaken, it's that Tuesday in July. So then we're looking at roughly about 3 weeks, right? 2 weeks and a half, maybe about 13 days, right? We'll say 13 days or so between All-Star break to the trade deadline, right? Depending on where you're at that halfway point of the season, or even if though it's more than halfway at that All-Star break, where are you at as far as an organization? Do you think, hey, we need to make a few moves here and there and to just shore up our lineup or even our pitching rotation? That's both sides of town, right? There's going to be some decisions to be made. If they keep going at this, that second meeting in August is going to mean a lot, because this is not that first week of August. I believe the Sox and the Cubs will play each other again at Wrigley. I think it's that second week of August. And again, I'm looking this up as I'm talking to you guys, right? Like this is going to be huge, right? These are huge things, and I'm just in the aspect of the two teams, right? The two crosstown rivals right now. Where are they going to be at? Are they gonna shore up that pitching rotation? Because the Cubs are at least a starting pitcher or two short, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, the Sox and the Cubs will be playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, August 17th, 18th, 19th. 17, 18, 19. They're all, two of them night games, that third getaway day game is a day game. So it's a getaway day game on the 19th, 17, 18, 19, right? Where are they going to be at? That's going to be roughly about 2 weeks post trade deadline, right? Are they still in that same position? Are they going to be clawing or trying to maybe stay atop their division? Are they both going to be atop of the division and kind of try to keep everybody at bay? We don't know. So, yes, these games are important. If everybody's going to put this away and say these games are important, they are important because they count. If they were exhibition and they didn't count towards the wins or losses, it wouldn't matter. It just simply wouldn't matter. But that's not what's going on. What's going on is that these two teams are still not only trying to compete for bragging rights, they're trying to compete to stay either ahead of the division like the Cubs or like the White Sox, where they're trying to fight up, right? And the Sox are like a half a game out of first place. And again, like I said before at the top of the program, stop minimizing and stop trying to make everything less than just because they're in a less than division. At the end of the day, whoever wins that division is still going to the playoffs. You're not going to say, well, they came from a bad division. All right, so let's play. Let me go ahead and let me play a little bit of a spoiler here, right? Or let me play a little game with you guys here. Is the same thing being said about the National League West? You're like, David, but the Padres are not that bad. Sure, okay, if you say so, right? But is there true competition with that juggernaut with the Dodgers, right? Are we saying the same thing about the American League East? Right now, it looks like the Yankees are running away with it. But we don't know, right? Is Boston going to surge? Is Toronto going to finally wake up? Tampa's there too, right? Is Tampa going to stay there, right? For a while, that was the Yankees-Boston division. Nobody else was climbing above the Yankees or Boston. Was anybody saying that about them? How about the American League West? Right? Anybody talking about that division? American League West. That's where the Mariners are at. They were a game away from the World Series last year. Don't look that great. And by the way, matter of fact, that's who the Sox are playing. They're out in Seattle tonight, playing the Mariners. Anybody talking about that division? No, right? Nobody's talking about that division. And let me do a little bit more live searching here. Let me break this down. And we're talking about this is a week before where I say is a checkpoint for me, that first checkpoint, Memorial Day, right? Let's play a fun little game here. I'm gonna look at the standings. So, starting from the top from the Cubs, right? The Cubs are a game and a half ahead of Milwaukee. Milwaukee's coming in for a 3-game series. Everybody yesterday lost in the division, right? St. Louis is a game and a half. Pittsburgh's 5. Cincinnati's 5. That's not that many games. We're still a ways away. Atlanta in the National League East is 8 games ahead of Philadelphia, 9 games ahead of Washington, 11 ahead of Miami, the Marlins, and 11 and a half in front of the Mets, which the Mets were supposed to have competed. Who knows, right? I don't know. Detroit had a, 15-game lead last year, and Cleveland was on their heels all of a sudden? You don't know. I'm not making any predictions here, right? I'm not a betting man. I don't know, right? Now let's talk about that National League West. The National League West, as of this morning, San Diego's a half a game out of first place. They've got a 3-game winning streak. Los Angeles, the Dodgers are on a 5-game winning streak. They're at 29-18, sitting there a half a game ahead. Arizona's 6 games out. San Francisco's 9 games out. Colorado's 11 games out. Right now, unless Colorado makes a crazy turnaround, I don't see that, right? Right now, we're looking at either San Diego or Los Angeles. I don't know if Arizona's going to fade. I don't know, right? Anything can happen. Now let's talk about that American League East. Yankees are 3 games out of first place. They are on a 2-game losing streak. They lost to the Mets these last 2 games in their Subway Series. Toronto's 9.5 out. Baltimore's 10 games out. Boston's 11.5 out. Right? Cleveland, they're holding on. They're on a 2-game winning streak, so are the White Sox. White Sox are a game out. Minnesota's 4.5 out, which is insane, right? As bad as Minnesota has been, right? Detroit's 5.5 out. Kansas City's 5.5 out, right? So it's a pretty close division there, right? And let's talk about that American League West, where, by the way, I couldn't have told you this unless I'm looking at this right now as we speak. The Athletics lead that division in the American League West. They're 23-23, exactly at 500, a game ahead of the Rangers, who are 2 games under 500 and a game out. Seattle, 4 games under 500, 22-26, 2 games out. Houston, they're 10 games under, 19-29, 5 games out. And then lastly, taking up last place there is the Angels. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, if that's what you want to call them. I always call them the California Angels because that's how I remember them. 7.5 out, they're 16-31. I can't make any predictions about that division. But if somehow the Athletics come out of that division, are they going to say that same thing about the Athletics? Oh, the American League is the West is terrible. The American League in total, it's bad, right? Always trying to minimize, right? So maybe sometimes we need to just look at these games as more than just rivalry. These games count because if you're trying to hold on, these games mean a lot. Stop trying to minimize this to it's just little brother the White Sox, or it's just the goofy Mets, or it's just who cares, right? They count. These interleague games now count, and not just for bragging rights. And bragging rights are that huge thing just because, again, I'm sure in that Yankees-Mets series, I'm sure there's a lot of what we see here with this White Sox-Cubs series. But again, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. I saw a lot of people online saying, oh, I hope that these 3 games are not what decides the division for the Cubs. No, what's going to decide the division for the Cubs is how they play in the actual division. Not to, again, minimize. Those games still counting with the White Sox. And if we ultimately don't, win the series, even if they take 2 out of 3 when they come here to Wrigley, if the Sox take 2 out of 3, that could be huge in the standings wise. Bragging rights, sure, to the victor go the spoils, right? That's how it goes, and I hope I got that saying right. They're going to brag, they're going to have all the bragging rights that they can have until they play each other again next year, right? That's all great. There's nothing that you should be that should take away from them, right? It sounds like sour grapes from like, well, I hope the White Sox enjoyed their World Series because this was like their World Series. Okay, sure. If they want to gloat, they want to brag, they can hold their heads up high today. I saw a lot of people in the mall yesterday, got their Sox gear on, holding their heads up high. That's fantastic. I'm really happy for those fans, and this is not me being sarcastic or I'm going to throw a jab at them. I'm glad. I just really hope, really hope that if they're still battling, their management makes a move for them and says, hey, this is not only a move for now, see what we can do, or for the future as well, right? That's what I want to see. If they don't invest in them, I'm not going to make fun of them. I'm not going to say anything unless it's me. Most of the time, it's not me going ahead and dragging the players themselves because the players can't do anything but play. It's a business, right? Or even the manager himself, unless he makes a really bad move, right? That's questionable. But it's that management, right? It's Chris Getz, it's Jerry Reinsdorf that make those decisions. Ultimately, it's Jerry Reinsdorf. If Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't want to sign Murakami for a big contract, he's not going to do it, right? At the end of the day, he has to sign off. That's what people don't understand, right? Chris Getz can go up there and give him the best presentation of why they should keep this man, right? And when that time comes to extend them or to maybe buy some of those arbitration years off of Cosa Montgomery, is that going to happen? I'm not dragging the team itself. I'm dragging the ownership, right? Just like I do with the Bulls, right? I would hope that these teams would be better. So that's why I always say I fell into a Cubs fan because most of my family are Cubs fans. My dad, I guess sure he's a Cubs fan. My dad, I mean, grew up again like I've talked about before, idolizing and watching Roberto Clemente, so he always got a little love for the Pirates, right? But he cheers for both teams, right? And it's like, hey, I just enjoy just the rivalry and everything about it, right? But again, at the end of the day, what is that management going to do? That's not going to change anything about this series. If the management does nothing, it doesn't change that, right? Wins are still going to count. It's just I'm going to feel sorry for the franchise and for the fans of that team because they have to watch a bad team. They have to watch management make bad decisions when all you want to do is cheer this team. There's so many great stories that I read this weekend about people's love for the Sox and for the Cubs and how they grew up. Those stories, I love hearing those stories. Those stories are so positive, right? How you grew up or whatever, or how you identify, or as a fan, and why, because grandma and grandpa took you to Comiskey when you were a little kid, and you remember the organ, and you remember all this, and you remember these. Those are the stories that come out of these rivalries. The other junk where people can trash talk, people can troll, but when it gets to levels that are just unacceptable, that's where I have the problem. That's what I want to move on to, right? I hope that before I move on to the negative of this weekend, is I just want to just say these games were great. I'm glad that they got a lot of people coming into the park. That's wonderful. I hope that they keep getting good record attendance to come see them play, even if they're not playing the Cubs. I wish them all the luck in the world for the rest of the season until those 3 games in August. Then, of course, I got to go for my Cubbies and hope for the best, right? But I really wish the White Sox good luck the rest of the way. And I hope that your management does the right thing and supports you guys if you guys are really fighting. Because you don't know. You don't know when you get into October. I'm telling you right now, I couldn't have predicted Toronto. Dodgers maybe in the World Series. I could have predicted last year and say, hey, I wouldn't think that's so big of a stretch if somebody told me at the beginning of last season the Dodgers are going to be in the World Series again. I'd have been like, okay, that's not that big of a stretch, right? But Toronto, right? I was surprised, and I love Vladdy, right? And I'm not saying, because they're a crappy team. Seattle almost made it. Like, what would they have looked at, right? Right? I don't know. You just don't know. Funny things happen in October. They really do. A few years ago, Philadelphia, right? They got on a crazy run and made it to the World Series. They didn't win. Arizona, same thing. Crazy run, a wild card team. Number 6, the last team, right? They were a 6 seed. 6. Think about that. 6 seed and made it all the way to the World Series. You don't know what can happen in a short series, especially that first series. It's a short series. It's a 5-game series, especially if you win that division. From the wild card standpoint, it's an uphill battle. From that division standpoint, it's a shorter sort of climb because you only have to go through 2 rounds to get to the World Series, right? But again, are they going to invest in them? Time will tell, right? And I hope that I can have the time to really do a trade deadline edition of this program and try to do it the same day of, um, or maybe the day after, just to kind of get that reaction. I know they have to like 3 o'clock that day, I believe. But again, it's going to be a long season for both teams, and I wish the Sox all good luck. Now on to the negative part of this program. Look, I'm going to see a lot of trolling from both sides. I'm not going to say, oh, it's always the Sox fans. They're such trash and blah, 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 blah. Cubs got trashy fans too. Let's be honest. And I think every team's got some guys and girls, unfortunately, who are a little screwy in the head and want to go on social media and they want to take their trolling to another level. And when it gets disrespectful, at that point, I wouldn't even answer. And I know some people sometimes can't resist and they have to answer. There was a lot of how can you raise your kids in Wrigleyville? Because of there's a certain community that is close to Wrigleyville out there. They started using slurs for that community. That everybody that lives in Wrigleyville or supports his team is that slur of that alternative lifestyle that there's a neighborhood out there near Wrigleyville, which I'm not even getting into all that because it's not my business. But I don't respond to that. I didn't personally get any attacks, thankfully, because I didn't put myself out there like that. Because it's stupid, right? I wear my gear. If people want to be like, go White Sox, or hey, we own the city, whatever, right? It's fine. It doesn't bother me. It is what it is, right? They get to gloat all they want because they won the series. It wasn't because, you know, somebody did something nefarious or somebody did something to cheat or they were beating each other. For the most part, I think the rivalry exists as like, hey, it's a good friendly competition. I don't know of anybody from the White Sox that dislikes a Cubs player particularly. I don't know, right? Maybe they keep it to themselves, right? And again, let me go back to just a positive. I forgot to mention it during my positive part of this program was the picture of Murakami, Shota, and Seiya together. Fantastic. I saved it, loved it. That's great. From what I hear, they had a wonderful conversation. They asked Mooney how he was adjusting to Chicago, how's he adjusting to Major League pitching, and I think they may have went out to dinner, but I'm not sure. That part I'm not sure about. But again, just to have that camaraderie, to have a fellow countryman and be able to talk to, that's wonderful, right? That's great. I'm sure that Murakami loves his teammates, but I think it'd kind of cool to talk to a fellow countryman and speak in your language and just talk, right? And just have a chat and wish each other good luck. And if they didn't, whatever, right? That was cool. The trolling, that's going to be fine. I mean, like I said, I saw people in the mall walking with their heads high. Maybe they can walk with their heads a little higher now because their team actually has a respectable team and they have a respectable record and they're doing good. And it's something for you to finally have some pride about. That's great. Wonderful. Have pride. There's nothing wrong with that. That is beautiful. I'm never going to poo poo on somebody for their pride. That's wonderful. Have that pride. Fly that flag. That's great. Have that friendly banter. I mean, there's families that are husband's a Cubs fan, wife's the White Sox fan, or vice versa, whatever. Siblings, aunts, uncles, that's all great. Troll each other, but at the end of the day, please keep it respectful, people. Stop with the disrespect. You can say what you want to say, but please don't go past a certain limit, right? Don't be a keyboard warrior. When you're at the stadium, don't start a fight. Let them say what they want to say. Who cares? As long as they don't physically touch you or you feel like you're in danger and you have to fight, then that's a different story. But ignore them. Half the time on both sides, and I'm not blaming the Sox or the Cubs. That's on both sides. They talk too much. Too much trash, too much crap talking. Stop with the crap talking, and then you get offended. You want to get a little bit of liquid courage because you start drinking a little too much. You get a little liquid courage. You feel like you want to start bouncing. You get all bouncy. You want to jump up. Like, come on, stop. It's a baseball game. At the end of the day, it's a baseball game. Just stop. Enjoy it. Talk your trash, troll each other, but keep it respectful, right? It gets to a point where you gotta sort of just keep it on a respectable level. You gotta understand that if you're gonna say something to somebody, be prepared for somebody to say something to you. But keep it respectful, people. I don't know how many fights took place in the bleachers. It just seems so stupid. It really does. It just seems so over a baseball game. Like, really, over a baseball game. I have members of my family who are White Sox fans. Guess what? We keep it respectful. I'm not going to troll my brother in law, and disrespect him over a stupid baseball game. Come on. We'll troll each other. Well, whatever. But don't pass the line. Why am I going in this direction? Because, again, I haven't gotten all the details. I got a little bit more details this morning right before I started recording this episode. So I'm sure you guys have already heard about it. If you haven't, I'm going to tell you. So PCA caught a ball yesterday, and it was a great catch in center field. The 2-run double by Vargas that he did not catch, that's what happened. It was a very, very well hit ball. Not sure how much the wind aided it, but it was a pretty well hit ball. It wasn't like, even if there was no wind, that ball was going to carry, right? It wasn't like, oh gosh, the wind helped it. But it was a factor, right? It was not a factor that he didn't catch the ball, because that's a hard ball to catch. If you were to call it, I'd have given him kudos. He didn't catch it, kudos to Vargas. What happened after is what the problem is. And as I'm trying to get context, I'm trying to get facts. So if anybody else has context or facts and you know me, shoot me a text, shoot me a message, whatever. Tell me if you got more context than I got. As I understand, and as people are showing it, again, they show it from different sides, right? There's the Sox side of the video, and then there's the Cubs side of the video. And both sides are kind of disagreement. And both sides, there's also some agreement. But again, this is all just, all speculation at this point, because nobody's gotten the audio. As I understand it, he did not catch that ball. He sat on his butt, basically, facing the patio area, which is on ground level, and people could sit there. So there's the Cubs bullpen in front, and right behind the Cubs bullpen is where the patio section is at the rake, or at Sox Park. There was a lady there celebrating her engagement. It was an engagement party. She was to get married next year in 2027. I believe she said October of 2027. And I got that information from the Sun Times this morning. I saw the article online. As I understand it from yesterday, and then I'll add the context from this morning from the Sun Times article, and I'm gonna sort of mix the two together and tell you guys what I got from the article. So from the article, that's how I understand it. She was there, celebrating her engagement party. She's to get married in October of 2027. Her fiance was there, who's a Cubs fan. She is the Sox fan. Fell on the butt. She starts to heckle PCA. PCA still sends up back to her. I'm not sure what was said. In the video, it shows her fiance sort of restraining her, getting her back. All right, like, that's enough. That's enough. From what I was told, PCA did not call her a very nice name. Used the B word. Could have said some other things that were not very nice that I cannot repeat, because I don't have that on good authority, just hearsay. But also, I'm not going to repeat the words here, because I always try to keep this podcast as language free as possible. And I haven't let one slip yet. Hopefully, I mean, I'm thinking I would have to listen to all of them, but I don't think I've let one slip yet. And that was that. That was yesterday, right? And it's social media. So as soon as it happened, I called Windows all over X. It was all over Reddit. It was all over Facebook. It was on here. It was on there. Everybody's TikTok, and everybody, right? The internet is just, everything comes so quick. This morning, article comes out. Somebody somehow finds her. I don't know if they found her because of this or because of that. And I'm going to tell you, there's two ways. I don't know if somebody found her or how the Sun Times found her. She is nameless. She is only going to be referred to, and she was referred to on the article as the lady in white. I believe she had a white blouse or a white dress. I think it was a white dress, right? Like a summer dress, right? Lady in the white dress. She does not want to be identified because she doesn't want the media attention, but yet she's speaking to the media. Again, this is separate from her being a Sox fan. This got nothing to do with her being a Sox fan. I'm simply just saying, if you don't want to make the media to make a big deal about it, be like, I got no comment. Whatever. She doesn't have to apologize if she doesn't want to. Sure. She said that she was just there to celebrate her engagement party, and PCA ruined the whole experience for her because she was just heckling him. Here's the thing that was also said in the article. She was already planning to heckle him. She was already heckling him at some point. If you look at the video and go online, she's on the other side of the fence towards the left. but it's a big, I say fence because that patio area is a big area. So she was toward the left. When PCA fell, he fell towards the middle and sat in the middle. She walked over to where he was at, sort of facing him, and started heckling him and saying that he sucked. And I don't know what else she said to him. I just know that PCA said she was talking trash, so I gave it back. And the way he gave it back, not okay. One, he should have ignored her, or maybe he shouldn't have went to that extreme. You be the judge, right? Based on what he said, he called it the B word, at least to what some people have said, and it has been corroborated by a few people. But there were some other expletives that he did say at her, right? But that was her plan all along. She's like, I'm gonna heckle this guy. Now, be ready that if you're gonna heckle somebody, they may have no reaction, or they have the reaction that PCA had. People are going to say, well, PCA is young. He needs to know better. A veteran manager, somebody needs to pull him aside and tell him, don't engage, right? Sometimes we're human. We engage. So you got to be ready that if you're going to heckle somebody, someone's going to say something back. No excuse for what he said. I'm simply saying, you heckle somebody, don't be surprised when they heckle you back. And if that was your plan, was to either heckle him and think he was going to say anything, or heckle him and get a rise out of him, then you succeeded, right? It's got nothing to do with being a Sox fan. Nothing. Not attacking you because you're a Sox fan, or even attacking for that matter, right? Those words shouldn't have been said to you, madam. Period. That's what I say. If I was in front of her, shouldn't have been said. Period. I don't care what the circumstances are. Don't go there, right? Some say that some of the Cubs fans that were there, also too, because there was Cubs fans in there besides her fiance. I don't know if other friends were also Cubs fans. I just know that she was there with that party. Started to boo a little bit, right? Because they thought that PCA was on the line. Sure. Now, I don't know if the Sun Times found her or they found her because who her boyfriend is. Now, I'm not going to say her boyfriend is like super famous. I only know him because if you're a YouTube follower, you watch stuff on YouTube, he's a local guy from Chicago. It's Johnny something, and I can't remember. He does funny videos online on YouTube about Chicago stuff. He makes fun of Fullerton always being under construction and how people say Jules instead of Jewel. So he just makes fun of, or sort of heckles and like us, right? As us as Chicagoans, how we talk and neighborhoods and stuff like that. It's all in good fun. In the video, you see her restraining her back, and people identified him quickly. So I don't know if they found her through him, or they found her because, hey, we need to find this woman to get her side of the story of what was said. Because again, it's easy to find. I'm guessing if they do enough research or how you go about that. But if you didn't want the attention, you shouldn't have spoken to the newspaper. Should have said no comment. I got nothing to say. Things were said that shouldn't have been said. Whether she thinks she's in the right or whatever, she shouldn't have spoken to the media. Because here's the thing. The internet's undefeated. And I say undefeated in the way that they're going to find this lady's name, and there's going to be some idiot, I'm going to say it now, some idiot Cub fan, and this is coming from me as a Cubs fan, that's going to find her, and she's either going to have to deactivate her social media, her boyfriend might have to deactivate his social media and stop doing his videos, or he's going to have to address it in one of his videos somehow. But anybody who is listening to this right now, do me a favor, don't engage anymore. Things were said. That's between PCA and her, not condoning anything on either side. This is not a Cubs Sox thing. This is a human being to human being thing. Don't be an idiot. Don't go engage this lady on her social media. Don't go trying to heckle her and say all these things as if I already saw the comments under the article. So I saw the article in X, and then you're able to click on the article and go, and it'll take you to the Sun-Times website. So the comments, I'm not going to read them here that I saw on X. Not acceptable. This has got nothing to do with Sox fans. This is human to human. Had it been the other way around, that had been a Cubs fan that was heckling a Sox center fielder or a player, and it was the same thing that happened, I'm gonna come at you the same way. Don't do it. Don't use the excuse of rivalries and this and that for you to excuse your trash behavior, because that's what it is. It's got nothing to do with being a fan. I don't claim anybody like that. You want to be a Cubs fan? You want to be trash? Do me a favor. You and I are not the same. Period. Trash talk is trash talk, but when you take it to a whole different level and you want to condone certain language, or you want to say it's because that's how they grew up, nah, stop there. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it because it happens a lot with the Cubs, happens with the Sox, happens with the Yankees. I'm sure that there's every team has a problem of fans who don't know how to, one, be quiet, shut up and be quiet, or think that they have the right to, well, I'm going to come out and say what I got to say. Don't be surprised if you don't get yourself banned, right? I don't know if this lady's going to be banned because then you'd have to ban every heckler. I'm not saying that should be the solution for this. Absolutely, not at all. I'm simply saying, or if PCA is going to get fined, I don't know, right? I'm not saying that I'm condoning what he said, but if he gets fined by the league, then he needs to say nothing else and just pay the fine and be better, really, because that's all he can do. He can use this as a learning experience, whether he's a younger guy or he's an older vet and he just snaps. Learn from it, be better, right? That's all I'm asking you guys to do is be better. I saw enough of that crap online. Of the disrespect to people and talking about people's neighborhoods or how they grew up and their upbringing. Be better. Stop trying to use quote unquote. I'm using my fingers to do the quotes. Rivalry to be a trash human being. Stop it. Stop it. Stop using political parties and views and how people feel, faith that they may follow, how people feel. Stop it. Be a better person. That's all I'm asking everybody on this audience that listens to me is be better. We can agree to disagree on things. We can say what we want to say during the rivalry. We can throw the jokes and the memes and all that, but keep it respectful. Don't say something to somebody to get a rise out of them and then be surprised when you get a rise out of them. Because sometimes, guess what? Even the nicest dog, when you poke it, it's gonna bark and it'll snap back at you. You don't need a Doberman or a pit bull to snap back at you. Be better, people. That's all I'm asking is be better. This game is not that serious, right? You can be heartbroken. You can even be mad at somebody that makes a bad play or doesn't do things. But don't take it to that level. We had that level last year with the betting, and I'm sure that's still out there where people were sending death threats to these pitchers and these players because their parlay didn't hit or because they didn't win their bet. That's your problem. Don't be a trash human being. That's all I'm asking you guys. And I don't want to end this program on a sad note or a negative note. All I'm going to say is be better. I'm going to say that I just had a birthday. Like I said, I celebrated my 44th birthday on Friday. Had some people over on Saturday. It was a great weekend. Thank you to everybody that showed up to my birthday. I appreciate you guys all. Thank you so much for the fellowship. The food was great. I cooked it, so I'm a little biased. The food was great. A friend of ours brought some pasta salad. It was delicious. I personally am not a pasta salad fan, but everybody else who ate it thought it was delicious. There's still some in the fridge, in fact, that my wife is probably taking for lunch and we'll probably eat later on when she comes back from work as part of our dinner. But everything was great. I got to spend it with my two boys, my wife, some friends, Jonathan included, some family friends, family themselves. So thank you so much for everybody for showing up, and go Cubs. You guys have a good day. God bless.